if one measure of your life is how many stories you could tell, then man, I've had a full life because.
Have you ever? You've been entertaining all of us, folks. Because if you're a similar age, you speak a language of which I completely understand. And this is a good segue, because among the many things I know about Paul Lombardo is your keen interest in baseball. And one of the speakers that you brought in was Philip Hoos. And what I didn't know about him, because he was not here to talk about baseball, was his relationship with Don Larson. Mm-hmm. And that triggered a whole interview, which made my day of this kind of crazy story. How did you even know about that? I didn't know until you told me. Yeah. And we talked. I picked him up at the airport. And, it never came up in a conversation or anything. And then when you were interviewing, and you came down and told me that, he was Don Larson's first cousin, I believe. Yeah. And I thought, wow, what a double honor for me, because I got a big thrill out of being able to bring these people and introduce them and, bring them to the stage. And it was, just everything that I wanted and more out of my willingness, I guess, to volunteer at the Jackson Center and stuff, because I just met some great people. How did you get involved? Well, I'll tell you, I was teaching, and we had the Young Readers program had started before I was done teaching. We brought our kids. My partner Gina Hess and I brought our classes, our language arts classes. We read the books. First one we went to was Number the Stars, Lois Lowry. Yeah. And one of Gina's students won the opportunity to have dinner with Lois Lowry that night, and got autographed, booked, and things. So I mean, I enjoyed that so much, and I remember John Sember was a volunteer there, and I just had the greatest respect for John, and every time we met, out and socially, the Friday afternoon pub runs that teachers used to make back then, and we talked and stuff. And I said, and John unfortunately passed away much too young. But I always said that if I had the opportunity when I retired, I'd like to try, even though I knew it was impossible, to fill John's shoes. Mm-hmm. And so, I just went down and talked. And I was not only, considered a volunteer, but I worked on the education committee. I had a couple of opportunities to go to schools. I did a presentation at a faculty meeting at Cassadaga Valley, one at Westfield Academy. I spoke to a group of, it was an educational sorority up in Dunkirk, and I went down to Olean and spoke to a group down there. So that was so you were
really
an ambassador for
I really enjoyed that a lot, and my only fear was, boy, do I have all my facts straight? Because these people are probably smarter than me, and if they ask me a question or catch me on a fact that's not accurate.
Did you have a toolkit? Was there items that you passed out?
Yeah, we brought some things down. I at that time we were promoting, the Jackson Center was promoting the biography that
Cale
Jarrell, yeah, that she wrote, and told the story of how we got, or the center got autographs from justices on the Supreme Court and everything, and that, so that was a nice little anecdote to be able to tell people and stuff. But yeah, I brought some books down there, and I had a PowerPoint that I put together, which for me was like the technological breakthrough of my life, figuring out how to do a PowerPoint. I remember when they gave me a computer in school, it could have been a doorstop for all I knew, old dog new tricks. But I learned a few things, and so I put together this PowerPoint with facts. I may. I've got the memory sticks at home, and instead
I'd be
I can.
interested to
I
see
can look through.
what it looked like. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and his name escapes me. Director Bratton, Adam.
Yes. Yeah.
He gave me some brochures, cards and stuff. They actually had business cards made out for me at the center, which I thought, boy, you know yourself that when somebody makes a business card with your name on it. So,
next best thing to a baseball card.
Yeah.
So and during that time period, so I recall Anita Sanctuary was running the
Yes.
Young Readers,
Yes.
and you were probably part of that group.
Yeah, I was kind of like her understudy.
Yeah.
Because she had told me, she said, I've got a couple more years and you're gonna do this. I'm good. You're already designated me, So, but and again, talk about huge shoes to fill. Because Anita was so dedicated to this project.
So if you had Lowry, you saw Lowry, and then after that, Christopher Paul Curtis. Did you take students to that?
No, because that was the older kid. The seventh grade was reading that. I went to the sixth grade. I went to Karen Levine, and we brought her a second time too, which was neat because then I got to introduce her the second time she came, and stuff. And my students just were so absorbed in her book Hannah's Suitcase. It was just, people thought that we shouldn't teach younger kids about the Holocaust and stuff, and to see the emotion that the kids felt reading those books and hearing the stories. We did the autobiography of Anne Frank, not the book, but we did the movie that was appropriate for younger kids. And you could see kids stunned. And that was the reaction we hoped for. Because if they didn't feel something, we didn't hit the nerves that should have been hit.
Yeah.
And it did. And Devil's Arithmetic and Hannah's Suitcase, those were stories that really made those kids feel something. And so I felt that it was successful on our part to do it.
You had a chance. We always had the night before. We'd have a little presentation and maybe a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
And did you get a chance to talk to any of those folks?
I did.
Yeah.
I was just totally in awe of the stories and how they were brave enough to stand up and relive that and tell it to other people and things. I mean, it was you talk about bravery. I mean, those people, not just what they went through, but to tell it over and over and over again. It was just fantastic,
What other authors did you have a chance to kind of interact with? Jane Yolen?
Jane Yolen, yes. We talked a lot when she first came in, and I know you interviewed her and everything, and then we came downstairs and we talked a lot. Now that wasn't a book that was on our list to read, so we would choose reads, like after lunch, settle the kids down, we'd read to them 15 minutes and stuff, and that was one of the books that we chose to read, or I did to my students and stuff.
Do you remember the name of the book?
Devil's Arithmetic.
That was Devil's Arithmetic.
Yeah.
Okay. And then of course Phil Hoos. Claudia Colvin. Remember we tried to get her.
Yeah.
We tried to get Claudia here, and I worked really hard to try to get her here, but she just wasn't quite into it. But anyways, he was terrific.
Oh yeah, and the story too. The fact that she a high school student she was Rosa Parks before Rosa Parks, and a lot of people didn't know that because she was a student and they didn't want to publicize the young people. I don't know if they considered it disrespectful or what, but and his story was great. And then the cherry on the ice cream was the guy was Don Larson's first cousin. So in fact he autographed my book. That was the thing. I have I have all of my books that I got to interview or introduce the authors signed, and I have them in a special section of my bookcase at home and stuff, because it meant a lot to me. Charles Shields, I just had a great time with. I was not a voracious reader in high school, but To Kill a Mockingbird was my favorite.
Yeah.
And I probably have seen the movie enough times that I could do Gregory Peck's dialogue, through. I can't do it with the accent that he had, but and so when he was coming, and he wrote I believe it was the unauthorized biography of Harper Lee, and that was one we took down to Warren and did it down there, and then we came back here and did another one here. So Tom Schmidt and Mr. Shields and I talked all the way down. It was it's just great to be able to be a part of that. I have to say though that and I don't know if I can say my favorite because I enjoyed them all, but Sharon Robinson, she was the most gracious woman and just an absolute joy to talk to and be around. And I have a picture. I have a display in my living room of bobbleheads with Hall of Famers and stuff. And I have a picture of Sharon Robinson and I that I put right next to the Hall of Fame shelf, because that was my Hall of Fame moment. Meeting a Hall of Famer, and she was just great. And I'll tell you, it was a situation where we didn't know how many kids we were going to get because we moved it up to February because she was speaking at the Hall of Fame dinner. And weather around here, you don't know if they're going to get in, you don't know if schools are going to be able to get buses or can't, snow days or whatever. So it was like we had our fingers crossed, and I know Mike Rowland, he was the chairman of the education committee. He kept, contacting me. What do you think? So far so good. No news is good news, We got to go with that. And fortunately, it worked out just great. And there were just so many things. I ran into Steve Massa, who I could follow around and listen to him do that perpetrator display. I mean, he had it so well and so informative and everything. I'm in one of the local dollar stores a couple months ago, and this guy behind me says, "Hey, I know you." And I said, "Yeah, you're Paul." And I said, "I know you too." And I said, "I think your name is Steve." He said, "Yeah, from Warren." And we started talking. And come to find out, he's a big Indians fan too. So we chatted in that. But just meeting him down there was a great thrill. And some of the other things that didn't have to do with the Young Readers program. I remember when you had Sam Yasgur come in, and I got to pick him up at the Sheldon House, took him to JCC for a presentation that he did to a class down there, drove him back up, and so I really had a great time. And when it was all said and done, he sent me the video, a disc with a video of his story that he was telling and stuff. So I mean, and I still have the tie-dye T-shirt.
Okay.
I do.
From the Resource Center.
From the Resource Center, yep. Still have my T-shirt.
That event, that CLE event, Woodstock, the music of the First Amendment, was our best. Best ever. There's so many things. The tribute to baseball and the connections that people had when they showed certain movies down there. I know that The Natural, Dave Remholt, Jamestown High School, his grandfather was the little Pittsburgh manager that said, "We want a real ball, we want a real ball." And my son had a connection. My son's first baseball coach at Medaille College was the pitcher that gave up the home run that broke the clock in that movie. Yeah. So, and so just bringing people in that have connections with
our community and stuff, and probably didn't even know it. And that
Right.
it's just phenomenal. The night honoring Jim McCusker was amazing. Judge Geraci's uncle.
Yeah, Alamo, Judge
Yeah.
Alamo.
That was, I mean, one of my favorite movies was The Great Escape. I mean, I still watch that when it comes on. And hearing that he was, part of what that movie was based on was amazing.
Well, we definitely continue to have a few. Can't wait to have some more live opportunities, because it is nothing like touching the hem.
Right.
Of folks who
Right.
really made it special. They used you, Carol Drake used you a lot for driving too.
Yeah.
Do you remember some of the other?
I had, during the summer, I was able to go to Buffalo and pick up Gabriel Bach and his wife.
Wow.
And that was just the most entertaining. They were so neat. And he was in his 80s then, and he said, first of all, they said they've never seen as much green. We drove, got off the thruway, drove through Westfield, and then came down into Chautauqua, and all the vineyards and everything that they saw. They said, we don't see this much green, and then he was asking me all about Chautauqua. He says, is there a place to swim there? And I said, oh yeah. I said, there's Chautauqua Lake right there. And he says, I didn't bring my swimsuit with me. And his wife said, we'll get you a swimsuit, don't worry. So they're kind of kibitzing with each other and picking at each other and stuff. But yeah, hearing his story. And then he invited me to his presentation when he made it up there. That was just a thrill for me. History was one of the things that I enjoyed teaching the most and stuff. And I remember when there was a teacher workshop at the Jackson Center that brought in the Holocaust Museum from Houston. Mm-hmm. And I was there with a teacher from Panama ran it. And, it was, some great ideas that we could use in the classroom
Swans.
and stuff.
Isn't he Swanson?
Is it Swanson?
He brought in Drew Bider and
Yeah.
Carb and those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, and I enjoy, when they came down to some of our meetings and stuff, just listening to them, the energy that they, I mean, just excitement, I mean, you couldn't help walk out feeling motivated to do some of the stuff that they brought up. So that was, it was a great help to my teaching career. It really was. I later went out to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, and they gave us the identification cards of various people. And what we did is we gave them to the kids, and we never told them what happened to that particular character. We left that part of it out. And, as the project progressed, the kids found out if they survived or if they didn't. And if they didn't survive, they were heartbroken. Yeah. I mean, literally heartbroken, So, I mean, all that. I remember I was doing a summer workshop with kids at Jefferson School, and we were using the Jackson Center. We went up, did tours and everything, and we had some discussion groups upstairs. We were reading the book. It was Jerry Spinelli's book, Milkweed. And we read that book, talked about it, and Jerry Spinelli, you came in with Jerry Spinelli and brought him up to the room, and these kids were sitting there, this is Jerry Spinelli. Yeah, Jerry Spinelli. I mean, just things like that I really do think that kids remember all of that, and it makes a difference in their lives, So.
Well, you were a tremendous enthusiast and continue to be so. I still enjoy reading the articles about the fact you do reference the Jackson Center, and all the things that have occurred there, and to have a chance to see, Gabriel Bach. My God, he's the guy who prosecuted Adolf Eichmann.
Yeah.
There he is. You're in his car. He's in your car. And did you get a chance to get up close to Chief Justice Roberts?
I was, I mean, not, within shaking distance, but and I was there when Judge Rehnquist, was here. Just opportunities that, I hope people realize what we have. Jamestown hasn't, we've gone down, right? As every place has, industry's gone and stuff. But, the things, I mean, the Comedy Center, I'm standing in there, was the weekend that Dan Aykroyd came in and stuff, and my wife's poking me with her elbow. What do you want? And she said, look, Dan Aykroyd's standing right next to me, just like an ordinary Jamestown, New Yorker, and enjoying the things, touching the things that, everybody else was doing, just like a normal human being, which she is, a normal human being. We saw there was, Fran Drescher was with him. And I mean, just, these are big doings in, little old Jamestown that some kids refer to. And when I started the articles and stuff, and I did the, looking back in the downtown businesses and, all of the other things, I wanted my kids to know that the Jamestown they grew up in was nowhere near the Jamestown I grew up in, because this was the greatest place in the world to grow up. Yeah. And I hope we're still providing things for kids to see. You don't have to drive, 3-4 hours to go to a museum. We have 5 or 6 of them right here. Right. And I think one of the things in education, exposing the kids to the Jackson Center as much as I could, and my colleagues the same way, encouraging everybody to do that. I think it was it's what made those young readers programs go, and getting the outlying area schools to participate. It was just, it couldn't have gone wrong with everybody that was there doing it. And I mean, the educational committee was, Mike, and we had Kay Buffamani?
Buffamani,
yeah. Kay Buffamani. Later on, who the director of the Y that helped us? He helped us with the Sharon Robinson program. And getting different people involved, and stuff. And then the directors, Jim Johnson and Tom Schmidt when he took over and stuff. I just enjoyed working with those people because I think we were all on the same page.
How did you select the books?
We tried to vary, all of the middle school ages and including high school too, but when Kay was doing, well, not Kay, Anita, yeah. When she was doing it, we were varying grade levels so that it wasn't the same grade level every year and things like that. And so we just looked at books that were, interesting to kids. Well, then when the school system went to the Common Core, and there were designated books for each grade level, we thought, well, why don't we pick a book that's there? That way we know that they're going to be reading it in school. It won't be something that they have to read as an extra project or anything. And we could kind of tie it in with that. So, we just were looking at, what was the content. Obviously we wanted to stick with the legacy, something that had to do with Robert Jackson's legacy and what he, civil rights and things like that. So, and we put down names, and then it was like, okay, well, let's make some phone calls and see who we can get, and and it paid off. And I know Mike did a lot of that work, to get a hold of people and see if we can. And I know you were making a lot of phone calls and talking to agents and things as well.
This is interesting. Just for the camera, I guess Jerry Spinelli was our first, and Bridget Johnson helped me connect with Highlights magazine, and Jerry was here at Chautauqua. I didn't know him from Adam, but I had a lunch with him and Kent Brown from Highlights, who owned Highlights, and Bridget, and this guy named Spinelli, because he had written an article on Brown versus Board. That's what I wanted him for. He goes, that's okay, but the book that's coming out and hardbound is Milkweed, Holocaust. Oh, we can do that.
Yeah.
Holocaust. That's a sort of civil rights or Holocaust, civil rights or Holocaust. So, and then Jerry stayed with us, and we've become fast friends since.
Yeah.
And then Jerry, of course, he's right up there at the top in this world of young readers, authors, and then he suggested Lois Lowry. He goes, who'd you suggest? Well, Lois Lowry. How do we get a hold of Lois Lowry? Here's your number. That led to it. Unfortunately, that book was here being, and then you're right. The suggestions had to come from the education committee. They'd hand me a name and say, good luck.
It was pretty much that way too, yeah.
There you go.
I do remember I came to Jerry Spinelli's without my class. I got coverage at the school, and because I wanted to be here for it. And at that time, we didn't have, the organization to, get everybody going for a whole school thing or a whole grade level thing, But I really wanted, and so I came to Jerry Spinelli's first one, and I was never disappointed in any of the speakers that I listened to, and being able to sit right off stage while they were right there, and the things where we did some distance learning as well, and I'd never done distance learning before, in a classroom, so that was all, a big part of why it was so enjoyable.
With Spinelli through Raleigh, Kidder, he brought in a good friend of his, Helen Fagan, who was in the Warsaw Ghetto. And that was amazing, because Spinelli did not know she was coming and was almost intimidated by her, because he'd written about the Warsaw Ghetto and yet had never been there, obviously. And here's somebody who was there who also was an educator. The two of them actually they bounced off each other so well that they thought about going on the road together.
Another part was, the sponsorship of the essay contest, and the kids from all over the state that we got to meet. There was the one teacher from Olive. She was religiously sending entries, and had quite a few winners from her school too, and just meeting those people and just sharing stories, and I'm quick to write, run in the other room and write down 3 ideas that somebody just said, because I thought they were great ideas, and I didn't see a patent on them, so all's fair in love and education, I guess. You steal what you can and make it work. It just the contacts, to meet people and share with the kids and listen to the kids and talk to the kids, was a huge part of it for me.
Well, you were a huge part of it, and the New York Bar Foundation sent its top representatives here because they sponsored the awards.
Right.
And they underwrote some of the essays, and in fact, some of them actually wrote course curricula based on the books. Gail Jarrow's book specifically, they actually spent 10 grand with somebody to write a whole course curricula on Jackson. And it's just been remarkable because of what you and Anita did to really stir up the interest and doing such a great job. And the authors saw it not as a gig, and this was fun for me to see how this transformed. It was not a gig. It was something they really were honored to be asked.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way. You know, it was, they wanted to get real personal with the kids they were talking to and things. I know that Karen Levine, you know, she just wanted to be among those kids and talk to them and listen to them and what they remember from the book and stuff. Yeah, it was, you talk about a labor of love. These were labors of love that these people did, because they were emotional, they were entertaining, they were informative. They just hit everything that we needed to hit.
And Karen, she came twice,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, being a writer is not her first job.
Right, she was
CBC, Canadian Broadcast.
news, yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
she was specifically fascinated by this opportunity, and of course, Sharon Robinson could have been more gracious with more people, posed with more pictures, signed more books.
Yeah. I really think that if we had, I think 200 in the theater that day, and she may have signed almost every one before she left, including mine. Which is,
and mine.
So,
well, you know, as you look, you know, your experience with the Jackson Center, and we're going to soon to be celebrating the 20th anniversary. Do you get a kind of a sense of where you would like to see the center go, and sort of that, and from an educational component?
you know, just what's happened in recent years with education is that there's such a rigid, you have to get this, and this. And there doesn't seem to be room for out of the school, you know, field trips and experiences and things like that. But, you know, if we could keep, I don't know, hammering away, if you will, or, you know, just letting people know that, you know, it's still here, and you know, and the types of programs, you know, and again, you know, what we tried to do at the end was, you know, adapt some of the curriculum that they were using, not as extra readings, but, you know, actual, you know, there's a unit on this, we're going to teach To Kill a Mockingbird, and there's going to be a test at the end, blah, 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 you know, but stuff that they're using right there in the classroom that, you know, it's the greatest resource a teacher could have. You know, I actually was honored. We did the Wax Museum at Jefferson School forever, and one of our students chose to be Justice Jackson, and I said I need a good prop that we could use for, you know, because we, through the years, we kind of, you know, got a little more finicky about, you know, having the right props and that. And we were able to use the gavel that was used in the movie, that Alec Baldwin used in the movie. And so we had a desk there, and Justice Jackson standing behind the desk, not sitting, but standing, and the gavel on the table and things.
Wow,
and
cool.
yeah, so I mean, just little tiny things that just made it that much better. And it's all because we have a place like that, you know.
Well, it's great. Honored to have guys like you who've contributed so much to it.
It was definitely my pleasure. Definitely my pleasure.